Mr. Punch presents Wisden, an entertaining portrait of the English game in 3 parts, compiled by Sue Rodwell and directed by John Tuckey. Part 2, 137 Not Out.
MCC and Ground versus Oxford University. Played at Oxford, May the 13th and 14th, 1869. In this match, Mr. W.G. Grace not only made a remarkable first appearance as a member of the MCC, but with his 117 runs, he commenced the most wonderful series of large first-class innings ever played by one man in one season for the old club. The first day's cricket closed with MCC having scored 159 for 6 wickets. Mr. W. Grace in number 1, then not out 86. Next day, Mr. Grace was 8th man out, the score at 203. Mr. G's 117 being made by 2 sixes, 1 5, 4 fours, 11 threes, etc. This innings was the feature of the match. But there was a splendid catch made by Mr. Fortescue, who ran 20 yards to the ball. An equally splendid throw-out from cover point from Captain F. Watson, Mr. Tilecoat the victim, and an excellent catch at mid-on by Mr. Case. The wickets were good and the weather dry, but rough and cold. The match was over at 5 o'clock on the second day, MCC the winners in 1 innings by 30 runs. Wootton bowled 63 overs, 36 maidens, for 67 runs, 1 wide and 12 wickets. 8 bowled.
The first occasion I ever played against W.G. was at Cambridge in the summer of 1878, and this was also the first time I ever saw him play. I remember being desperately anxious to get him out, but I was disappointed, and on my telling him what pleasure it would give me to get him out, he laughingly replied, "It's only a question of time. If you go on long enough, you are bound to get me out." One of the finest innings I ever saw W.G. play was his 152 against the Australians in the match England versus Australia at the Oval in 1880. Certainly he was batting on a good wicket, but his timing of the ball on this occasion was absolutely perfect, and the crispness of his strokes perfection. W.L. Murdoch made 153 in the second innings of this match. A very fine performance it was, too. I afterwards heard a discussion between some of the Australian team as to whether Murdoch was a finer batsman than Grace. A. Bannerman, the little stonewaller of his side, clinched it by saying in his brusque way, "W.G. has forgotten more about batting than Billy Murdoch ever knew." A.G. Steele.
MCC and Ground versus Nottinghamshire played at Lord's May 28th and 29th, 1885. To the brilliant all-round cricket played by Dr. W.G. Grace in this match, the crushing defeat of the powerful Nottinghamshire 11 by an innings and 59 runs was mainly due. Messrs. Grace and Russell put on 54 runs for the first wicket, but at starting, the Gloucestershire captain did not seem quite at home and gave 3 difficult chances. Afterwards, however, he played in his old form, although he scored rather more slowly than usual. The Nottinghamshire total was passed for the loss of but 2 wickets. Dr. Grace, after being in for 2 hours and a quarter for 61 out of 109, was bowled, his chief hits being 3 fours, a 3 and 11 twos. There was a good deal of rain overnight, and the hot sun on Friday morning rendered the wickets slow and treacherous. The bowlers therefore had matters all their own way. Flowers took the last 3 MCC wickets, only 3 runs being scored off him. Nottinghamshire began their second innings at 10 minutes to 1. Dr. Grace bowling from the pavilion wicket where Flowers had met with so much success. Scotton was in an hour and 20 minutes for 12, and Mr. Daft played very steadily and well for 10 not out. But the other batsmen only offered the feeblest resistance to the bowling of Dr. Grace, and in 2 hours the innings closed for 44, and the MCC gained an easy victory.